The inner child in me gets really excited. So I was pretty happy with that. I know that sounds lame, but I'm sure there are many of you out there that if you accomplish something and someone gives you a sticker or a stamp, you can't help but feel kind of happy about it. Hello everyone, it's Luli, and today I'm going to be doing a review on Doraemon Story of Seasons, Friends of the Great Kingdom. But before I start, this video is sponsored by 2Game, an authorized retailer who sell keys straight from the publisher. They often do discounts, and if you buy something from them and include the code PEACH, you will get a 5% discount on top of a discount, which means, you know, you're supporting my channel as well as getting a discount yourself. It's kind of a win-win situation. Also, I have been provided 2 free keys, so I have embedded a question in this video. If you answer it in the comments below, then you'll have a chance at winning one of these keys. But anyway, let me start. So first up, I'd like to talk about the aesthetics of this game. As you can tell, it's very like watercolor, pretty. I think it really fits the Story of Seasons vibe. I don't know if many of you know, but Doraemon is like a childhood favorite. I remember as a kid growing up with the anime, waiting for a Friday. I think it was a Friday, which was when it was Doraemon night, because back then you had to wait for the days in order to watch things. And I'm sure many of you know Story of Seasons. It's a series of farming simulators. I absolutely adore this series, so the fact that there's a collaboration between a childhood favorite anime and then, you know, one of my favorite series just was a dream come true almost. So I absolutely adored this game. Now, as you can imagine, given it's an anime originally, when you start the game, it almost goes through basically Nobita's life. He's having a nap, as is always the case, and his mum tells him off, and then he's like, Doraemon! And asks for help. It's held during the summer holidays, and you discover that all the other characters are also having a rough time with their parents, which is why they all decide, you know what, we'll rely on Doraemon and choose to fly off to another planet. And that's basically the plot. They land on this planet, they encounter this character who needs help to farm, and I'm not gonna lie, I find it hilarious that Nobita, like one of the laziest characters, ends up doing farming. But what I appreciated about this game is that it wasn't just like Nobita suddenly miraculously becomes, you know, hardworking. Don't get me wrong, obviously he does hardworking things like farming, but at the very beginning he does show a little bit of like, oh, I have to do farming. Like, he does show his sort of desire to help, but he also shows that kind of lack of enthusiasm, which I thought was a good touch, as well as, you know, maintaining all the characters' personalities, like Giant being, you know, a bit of a bully, Suneo being like the sneaky one, and then you had Shizuka-chan, who's really nice and kind, and Doraemon, who always just wants to help. And I thought it was nice that they maintained those character traits throughout the game as well. Now, moving on to the voice acting, I thought it was really fun that basically at certain points they had full-on voice acting for, you know, Nobita, Shizuka, and all the other characters. And of course, the majority of it, when it's just general dialogue, they would only be partial voice acting, but I thought that was fine, because the fact that they had voice acting at all, to me, was like, oh, that's pretty cool, if you know what I mean. So I thought that was a nice touch. Now, obviously, there is no romance in this game, which makes me sad, but given you play as, you know, the protagonist of Doraemon, Nobita, and he's 10, it makes sense that there's no romance. However, there is like a friendship thing which I thought was really sweet, where he gradually gets to know his friends. I'm not gonna lie, I am looking forward to how he gets to know Jae-young and Snail, given in the anime they're always constantly bickering. But yeah, it's nice to see that if you keep on talking to them and give them gifts that they like, as is always the case in Story of Seasons series, you can have hearts that gradually increase and your friendship deepens with them, which is obviously my favourite part of this series. And of course, as your friendship develops, you get these events that occur when you walk into their shop or you walk into that area, which is a nice touch because it adds that kind of story vibe. And it does kind of remind me of like Doraemon movies that I went to watch with my friends when I was a kid in Japan. So it was just, I don't know, it just made me happy. It just gave off like this cozy nostalgia vibes. Who knows, maybe some of you are too young to understand or like feel this nostalgia because you didn't have Doraemon in your life, but trust me, it was such a cute anime and I think you will enjoy it regardless, just because the characters are cute, you know? Now, in order to deepen these friendships, you don't have to only do the gifts and talking, but things like requests appear. So there is this notice board in the sort of town centre, and basically it has requests from different people. It will be things like I want iron or copper, or I want like 3 turnips or whatever. And by, you know, fulfilling these requests, your friendship with that person increases and you get things like goals. So it's great, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so that's one thing. The notice board also has, you know, weather as well as sort of events that are going to occur in the future, which is something you can check on the calendar as well. So there's no real difference there in comparison to other Story of Seasons games. Talking of Story of Seasons, you of course have the farming element, which is, you know, hoeing the land and then sowing the seeds and then watering it and then harvesting it. All of that is basically the same as you would probably expect. I must say on the PC version it was a little bit clunky to use the keyboard, but you kind of get used to it with time, and also I tend to use an Xbox controller, so for me that wasn't a problem. But yeah, it can feel a tiny bit clunky, but you do get used to it and it doesn't feel like an issue after a while. Then you've of course got fishing and bug catching. I don't think I've had as much experience in bug catching, but like fishing was very typical in that you sit there with your little rod and then the thing goes down, you're like, oh my god, I need to fish it. And yeah, I think fishing has so far been relatively easy for me. Now of course you're probably gonna get like rare fish and all of this, so that'll be quite interesting because you also have like a collection where you collect lots of different fish, and you've got like, obviously it's a bit like Animal Crossing, you know, where you have this little list and it's almost like you've ticked off that you've got that fish or whatever. Same goes for bugs. So it's nice if you're one of those like collector people like myself. Also, not to mention, you do have a to-do list that's made by Doraemon that if you do, you know, manage to accomplish it, you get like a little bell stamp, and I'm a sucker for that. The inner child in me gets really excited. So I was pretty happy with that. I know that sounds lame, but I'm sure there are many of you out there that if you accomplish something and someone gives you a sticker or a stamp, you can't help but feel kind of happy about it. But yeah, so as you can tell, farming, foraging, fishing and bug catching are pretty much the same as all the other Story of Seasons. It's just, you know, the addition of the Doraemon and like that anime vibe and the nice warm nostalgic feeling is what adds to this game. And of course you've got mining. What I found interesting with mining, you had a pickaxe. I remember in the past you'd only have a hammer, but in this one you have a pickaxe, and you basically need to upgrade it before you can, you know, pick at certain rocks. So what you'd have is this square patch. You would use your pickaxe to get as many ore as possible, and occasionally you find a hole with a rope in it, which allows you to go down one level. However, note that if the rock down there is of a different level, your pickaxe does need to be leveled up, so you know there are ways of preventing you from going forward. And then of course you've got animal husbandry, that sort of thing, which again is pretty similar to Story of Seasons. And I don't know, I think it's nice because one of the things I do like about Story of Seasons is there isn't that much difference from series to, like, you know, game to game. Just a few things here and there which either improves the game or adds a little bit of charm, in this case Doraemon, the anime. So yeah, and I think that kind of sums up my sort of description of what this game entails. Now, my general thoughts and rating. I would probably give this game an 8 out of 10. The reason being, I mean, I'm probably biased in that I really like Story of Seasons games, but I think part of the reason is that nostalgia. I also really like this sort of watercolor, pretty aesthetic about it. It just feels so natural, and I don't know, whenever I'm playing it I'm just like looking at it and it's so pretty. That combined with the cute music, it just really gives me like fuzzy warm feelings. Like imagine playing this in a rainy day. It feels really like cozy, as should be the case with farming sims, if you know what I mean. And then that combined with all the characters that you kind of are familiar with, or at least in my case I was familiar with, added to that charm. Not to mention there were scenes where it went from like top down to like kind of, I don't know how to put it, like third, not quite, third person, but in like a 3D vibe, which I felt was kind of nice touch, because occasionally you'd go to places and then it would shift to this different viewpoint, and it's just so pretty. So, you know, for me it was an 8 out of 10. If you don't know of Doraemon, you may, that rating may be down to like a 7 or something, but I think you'd still enjoy it because, you know, it's just such a cute game. It makes sense that you play as Nobita, and it is refreshing to see him work really hard because, you know, in the anime and the manga, he is always like, Doraemon, I don't want to do this. So it's nice to see him working hard for once and trying to accomplish this goal. Oh, also one thing I forgot to mention is that as it's Doraemon, he has like, instead of it just being like, oh, you've got a closet or whatever, it will be like, oh, Doraemon has this machine that, you know, if you take a photo with it, you end up wearing those clothes. There are all these little machines that are used instead of it just being, you know, a normal item, which I thought was nice because it felt like whatever you were doing felt like something special as opposed to your usual Story of Seasons games. Now moving on to who I would and would not recommend this game to. I would recommend this game to those, of course, who like Story of Seasons. I'd say out of the Story of Seasons games I have played, this is one of the stronger ones that I really enjoyed. So that's a good thing. I would also recommend it to those who like Doraemon, obviously, and like seeing the interactions between the characters and building friendships. And I would also recommend it to those who like, you know, vibrant watercolor colors and happy music and just absorbing the cuteness of this game. Although I would not recommend this game to those who want combat. I believe this game does not have any sort of combat systems, so you know it's a little bit kind of lacking in that sense. Although for me that was better because it meant it was more cozy and I could relax as opposed to having to think about monsters and things. I would also not recommend it to those who really care about romance. Now of course I personally care a lot about romance, but I was okay with this game because it was Doraemon, you're Nobita, so you know, it makes sense that there's no romance. But if that's something that you really care about, then this game may not be for you. I would also not recommend this game if you don't want to be a male. If you want to be female desperately or another gender, then maybe don't go for this game. Again, I thought it makes sense because Nobita is the protagonist. Maybe it would have been fun if you could play as Shizuka-chan as well, but I also understand that in Doraemon, Nobita is the protagonist, which is why you would play as him. But if you're the type of person that really would rather not play as a guy and you'd like to play as another gender, then I totally understand and this may not be the game for you. So that kind of ends my review on this game. Remember that this game is discounted on 2 games currently, and if you add Peach at checkout as a code, you get 5% more discount. It supports my channel and it's great for you, so bear that in mind. Remember to comment below the answer to the question that was embedded in this video if you would like a chance to win one of the keys. And again, as is always the case, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and hopefully I will see you in another one of my videos or streams. Bye!